Hi, Rupert McDupert here. Have you ever looked at a game in your library, saw it looking back at you, and you just shrugged and did anything else? Well, that's exactly what my relationship with Abyss Odyssey has been like for the last 11 years. It sits on the top of my library when it's organized alphabetically and, looks disapprovingly at me or something. Like all the work I did inside it wasn't complete. And I've been hesitant to really look at it for like 10 years because there's something about the art style, the folklore, even the colors just didn't feel like it was made for me. And it's strange because I can recall having the same exact feeling when playing the various cultural themed levels of Little Big Planet 1 when I was a kid. I tried to research this feeling I have when playing culturally coded games, and I discovered semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs and how meaning is conveyed through them. This could be literal words of text or language, but is such a broad term that it can be applied to almost every study, from philosophy to anthropology to color theory. I'm a guy who cares a lot about meaning, generally speaking, so when I encounter all these signs, whether it's a cactus or the terracotta red hue of an adobe hacienda, it's like, yeah, I see them, but I don't understand them. Not completely. And not in this context, exactly. And this lack of understanding is because I don't have the same cultural cipher that the people living in these cultures have. And for me, that kind of sucks, because if I don't play these games, well, I'm just missing out on a wealth of knowledge. So that's what this video is about. We are going to develop a cultural cipher by playing and talking about the game Abyss Odyssey, but we're going to do it in a fun way. You won't even feel like you're learning anything at all. But hopefully you do learn something. So now we have to play Super Folkémon Smash Brothers and capture these Folkémon and talk about their Pokédex entries while we play. If you're lost, don't worry, this will eventually make sense. Run the title drop. What's going on with her boot? Something's wrapped around her whole ass leg. It's like a snake. Abyss Odyssey is a game created by Ace Team, which you might remember from other titles such as Rock of Ages, Xenoclash 2, or their newest 2023 title, Clash, Artifacts of Chaos. They do a lot of clashing. All games with just really unique art styles and influences. And Abyss Odyssey is no exception. It features Chilean and Chiloe folklore prominently in its playable characters. It also features a sort of capture system that allows you to collect and play as any enemy character you see in the game. This is actually a game that sort of plays like Street Fighter, mixed with Super Smash Bros., specifically the Subspace Emissary mode on Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii, I think the Wii. It's a platforming fighting game with a simple cancel combo system. And the setting is 1890 in Santiago, Chile. And the art reflects that. You have a lot of flowy gold leaf and delicate intricacies. Historically, at this time, art was usually inspired by the old Gothic classics, but with new industrial innovations, suddenly art wasn't just for rich folks in galleries. It could be found all over the street and in architecture. Printing was a lot more accessible, and artists like Alphonse Mucha could mass-produce insanely intricate theater posters like this one. This particular art style is called Art Nouveau, which is featured prominently throughout the game. So about the Pokemon part, every Pokemon trainer has to start somewhere, and I guess you overslept. We only got one Pokemon left here at the Pokemon Lab. It's a first come, first served deal for the first 3 people to walk in here. It's just always been that way. So we only got this thing right here for you. The Camahueto is the first Pokemon on our journey to become a Pokemon Master. And that's because it's got some decent lore. And because I got to show you what we're doing here. It's probably still a big question mark to you. The Camahueto is a bull, but instead of 2 horns, it's got just one, like a unicorn. It is said to sleep in riverbeds, or sometimes in underground burrows as it reaches maturity. And then, when it's finally grown up, it stampedes to the ocean, making rivers in its path. It's also said to control weather, destroy crops, and even drag humans with them into the ocean. Its horn is said to have the power to cure disease, among other miracles. You can think of it as the folkloric manifestation of natural destruction, but also creation. You know, because it makes rivers and stuff, and we need those. It's a beautiful way to describe the opposite sides of nature, both entropy and negentropy. You know, like life and death, yin and yang, chaos and order, good and evil, Marco and Polo. Here's a cool part. In order to get rid of a Camahueto, you'd have to go find a witch or warlock and get them to lasso it with a rope made of kelp, and then lead it back to the sea. This would make your local witch doctor like the person who knows how to navigate the supernatural world of order and chaos, which is like super cool. Anyway, I saw this thing at first, and I just thought, ew, ooh, gross. What is that? What is that? Why is that color? But after uncovering the myth, my perception changes from what is this gross looking green cow thing to, oh, the spiritual manifestation of nature's fury. Welcome. Hello. And that is how you construct a mythological cultural cipher. Really, you wouldn't even have to leave the game to do this, because the game has a nice little lore library for you so that you can uncover these myths a little bit for yourself. So you see what we're doing here? It's a Pokemon adventure, and you got to catch them all, and then we talk about them. So that should be good. In Abyss Odyssey, the objective is to descend through a hole in the earth to the very bottom to confront the sleeping warlock, the man whose dreams become reality. So everything we see down here is a reflection of this warlock's life. These are the things he dreams about. Now, there isn't much known about his origins, but we can surmise quite a lot from what the game tells us in the warlock's notes, if we cross-reference them with actual history, which is pretty cool. We know he was born in Chile in probably the 1860s or 1870s, and had quite the penchant for the dark arts, which he gained from a specific situation involving his aunt, which we will get to. His parents sensed this growing fascination within him, so they tried to eliminate all traces of magic and folklore, you know, the old world, in their home, and tried to give him a worldly education. And in 19th century Chile, this meant that he would be receiving specifically a French and or Italian education, because these places were seen as major hubs for progressive civilization. He would have lived in or very near to the capital city of Santiago. Now, French was the secondary language of the Chilean aristocracy. If you spoke it, you were obviously educated. France was seen as the world leader of culture and fashion, and Chilean elites in Santiago favored the European perspective, seeing it as refined and tasteful. At the same time, they would denigrate the old world heritage, especially things like folklore, seeing them as backwards, uneducated, and basically for the poor rubes that lived like a few miles from the city proper. This is why some of the warlocks dream, like this Bauta guy we're going to capture, are not from South American folklore, but are actually from Italian real-world history. And this means that there's a really cool parallel between my experience of this game's culture and the warlock his self's experience of his own cultures. Isn't that pretty cool? So I'm weirdly turned off by this artistic language that I don't super duper understand completely and properly. And when I play it, I find myself caught in this sort of distressing world of confusion. And this would have been exactly what the warlock's entire life would have been like. He has this connection with his heritage, but there's this whole other cultural world that is coming on down on him, the world of the European cult civilization, basically. But anyway, the Bauta. This one is sort of weird. It's not like a creature or a monster or anything. It's literally just a guy, specifically a Venetian guy, wearing a mask. And he's not even from this time period. He's like from 100 years earlier. Why is he here? Well, he's from the Warlock's dream. In his notes, the Warlock describes dreaming of the Bauta after reading about it in history books. He calls it his first true nightmare, writing that Bautas were forbidden from carrying a blade, for their concealed face might grant them the ability to assassinate their fellow man without being identified. In this dream, the warlock wakes up after being stabbed by a cold, poison-tipped dagger. The passage honestly raises more questions than answers, so let's look around a bit. The name Bauta actually refers to the mask. This guy's not a Bauta, about to do anything. It was a style of mask that was worn in Venice, Italy during carnivals and political events. It was designed to make its wearer anonymous. So you could do debaucherous things like gamble, consume, vote for stuff, or speak freely. Lots of people wore them, but why is the mask so scary to our warlock? Well, you have to understand that in Venice at the time, there was this organization, the Council of Ten. This is a real, actual shadow organization that operated with the government to deal with people who might be a problem. They had secret funding, anonymous informants, police powers, and a broad judicial mandate. They could essentially just execute anybody they wanted to, and one of the ways they would do this is through the use of the Bauta mask. The Council of Ten had inquisitors who would disguise themselves using the Bauta, which was actually quite easy, as the mask could be legally worn for like half the year by anyone. If they heard you oversharing about how discontent you are with the current government, that might get you looked into. Because these masks were legally protected by law, you never knew if you were being listened to by what are effectively state operators. And this was done intentionally. From the warlock's perspective, you can see how this would be incredibly scary to discover about a real-life place in the real-life world. Imagine reading about the bocce di leones, the mailboxes scattered around the city, which could be used to report someone anonymously for treason against the state. You could then be abducted by a stranger in the Bauta mask and then put to trial. Trials which often began in dark candlelit rooms and ended in incarceration, exile, or even execution. It would have been an entirely foreign concept for a young man who probably grew up living in a village of like 20 people. It's incredibly dark and ironic how a mask that was designed to be used to encourage carnal pleasures and political anonymity was secretly used to spy on the citizenry. And what he says in the note is true. Those wearing the Bauta, or any mask, were forbidden by law from carrying a blade, but somehow I'm guessing this did not apply to the Council of Ten's inquisitors. Anyway, back to Folkémon. Who's that Folkémon? It's Paganini! Just a little quick side quest. Yes, Paganini, the real, actual 19th century violinist, is featured as a playable character in this game. This is one of those guys that was so talented that people thought he sold his soul to the devil. And the warlock reads about him in one of the encyclopedias that he has lying around, and is interested in Paganini for that reason.
Because he sold his soul to the devil.
That should tell you a little bit about the warlock and who he is. But anyway, we'll get there. So we only have 2 Folkémon left. And if mythology or history isn't your thing, then hopefully the dark arts are. But while we get there, I wanted to talk about some other cool parts about the game. As players descended into the abyss and defeated the warlock, the medallion on the front of the book in the main menu would break. And when the medallion was completely broken, they would drop content updates. Not a whole lot of games were doing anything remotely similar to this at the time. Probably you're thinking right now of Helldivers 1, which, like its sequel, has an intergalactic war where players collectively push back against opposing forces. But there are earlier examples of community goals in games too, and probably the closest example to this one is from Dragon's Dogma, which featured the Dragon. The Dragon was an optional endgame boss that players would collectively fight. After players slew this dragon enough times, they'd get rewards and their gear would get upgraded. And Abyss Odyssey is kind of like that. Instead of loot, we got new characters and better and harder difficulties. But we found our next Folkémon, so let's catch him and talk about him. Her. The Voladora. Frankly, when I first saw this thing, I thought, why would I ever want to be this in a video game? But its moveset is absurdly busted, and I love it. But what are we looking at? Is this a duck or a person? It's like Got 2 human legs, but like a beak. It's got these in its eyes, they're pretty gross. It's got like a long black wig, it's got hair. Spanish speakers among us will note that this word voladora is a derivative of the word volar, which means to fly. A voladora is one who flies who is female. But this thing can't fly. I don't think it's even got wings, so what's going on here? Well, this is actually a special voladora, one who represents our slumbering warlock's first brush with the dark arts. One of our warlock's first memories was that of his aunt, who served a different powerful warlock. The way she served this warlock was as a voladora. The warlock would grant her the power to transform into a bird. Her task was to give the warlock the duan, a message of life and death. Often this was a warning for the warlock. The voladora might catch wind of her fellow townspeople planning to organize a search party to find and kill the warlock, because, most people aren't so cool about the dark arts. She'd then fly to the warlock under the cover of night to inform him of the impending doom. Now, the way she would accomplish this transformation is by vomiting up her entrails, like all of her organs and stuff. The mythology isn't super clear on how she would do this. It seems like in the game, she can just do this whenever she wants. But some stuff I found online describes a special potion made of wolf oil and the juice of the natri, a fruit found only on Chiloé, that the woman must drink to begin this process. She would then have to hide her organs either in specifically a wooden bowl or somewhere in the woods, or both, or neither. After vomiting up her entrails, she would then turn into a bird, usually a night heron or some other kind of blackbird. Look, I know a lot of the details are murky, and I'm a little bit frustrated about that too. It's just that, if you've done any research into mythology at all, you'll know that the more recent the myth, the more it has changed over a very long period of time. And well, most mythologies are oral traditions anyway. So, it kind of becomes a little difficult to track the minor details of stories sometimes. But the gist of the myth, the gif, if you will, is in the warlock's journal. And when I first read this, I was like, what does any of this even mean? I can't find many sources on this, but the vomiting of the organs seems to imply the shedding of human weight. The logic seems to be that your organs, the physical meat inside you, are going to keep you from being able to take flight because it makes you physically heavy, but it also makes you spiritually human. So by shedding the part of herself that is in essence her humanity, the Voladora enters a state which is neither fully human nor fully animal. And it is this state that allows her to cross the boundary into the supernatural world. But that is not the end. Perhaps as a way to suggest that these dark powers come at a cost, the myth goes that once her duty was complete, the Voladora must find her entrails again and consume them to return back to her human form. So this creates some serious tension in the story, because if you couldn't get back to your entrails, you would be trapped in bird form forever. The slumbering warlock's aunt, unfortunately, came to know a fate far worse than this. One night, after fulfilling her duties, she returned in bird form to her entrails, partially eaten by a stray dog. She consumed them anyway, either out of recklessness or ignorance, but because they were partially eaten, she only regained partial humanity. She became an abomination, a half-bird, half-woman hybrid. This is the warlock's first memory he can recall, his aunt's hideous transformation. From this moment on, he knew that sorcery was real, and he'd never forget it. And while this is pretty gross, it's also sort of beautiful. Part of what makes mythology and folklore really interesting is how it changes over time. Mythic revisionism, or sometimes it's called mythic reimagining, is a way to alter a myth to explore new and unique perspectives and meanings. It answers the question, what if? while staying partially grounded in the original myth's logic, which is just a really cool thing to see. And this process is a hallmark of modern storytelling, moving from the universal myth to the intimate story. And that's exactly what's being done here in the Voladora story in the Abyss Odyssey. Because of this layering of mythology surrounding the Voladora, the design of this creature never left my mind once, and now I'm sure it won't leave yours either. But now let's move from the intimate to the absolute. For our Anglican viewers, he needs no introduction. He's the literal Word of God. It's Verbum Dei. This is what we've been working towards. Verbum Dei is a mini-boss found in the harder sections of the Abyss. And like all other monsters in this game, he's also capturable and playable. Unlike the other characters in this game, however, he is quite the big boy. He is one of the highest level monsters in the game and can only be captured by a character with a level over 40. Clearly, this character is significant to our warlock. He features the most interesting design. He's a tall, bearded blue man with translucent skin and armor, so you can see his skeleton underneath. He wears many crowns on his head and wears a cloak dipped in blood. Out of his mouth comes a sword, and he rides a white horse. Some of you might recognize parts of this description as they match exactly the figure described in the book of Revelations 19:11-21 in the Bible. In this Bible verse, this figure is called Verbum Dei, the Word of God. It describes him, but it also describes the fate of those who are against him, being thrown into the lake of fire or being killed by the sword that comes from his mouth. We know the sleeping warlock was a man living in Chile in the 19th century. He was fascinated by the folklore and the magic of his time, but then was educated in European culture, and no doubt this would have included a strict Christian discipline. Despite his understanding of his dark magic's corrupting nature, despite the evil things he knew that warlocks do, there's this whole entry about the Invulce, the stolen children twisted into guardians of the dark. You can look into that one on your own. He retained a heavy devotion to his supernatural work. Verbum Dei is so powerful in the dream because the warlock understands that in this religion, in which he was probably formally trained, its adherents would celebrate his eternal damnation. But the Verbum Dei isn't just a manifestation of the warlock's fear of a judgment by a wrathful god. Hanging from the belt, Verbum Dei also wears what is unmistakably a silver trapalacucha. This silver ornament represents the Mapuche people, the people who lived in south-central Chile, southwestern Argentina, including parts of Patagonia, before the Spanish arrival. The trapalacucha is meant to symbolize the dual heavenly and earthly world of man. The upper plate shows a pair of birds facing each other, representing the feminine-masculine duality. The birds are linked by silver plates to the earth, showing mankind's connection between the spiritual and the worldly. This ornament is filled with an entire cultural understanding of the world, but it's also normally worn around the neck by women. Verbum Dei wears the trapalacucha not as a symbol of respect, but as a scalp. Our warlock's first introduction to the dark arts was through his aunt. His mastery of sorcery is tied directly to the feminine and the low language of Chilean myth and legend. His ordered side, the side his parents and the surrounding culture forced upon him, is tied to his European education and the Latin-speaking father god, the masculine. By putting the feminine body ornament on the belt of the masculine executioner, we can see that this character represents the cultural colonization of his very soul. It's as if the high language of his education has captured and subdued the low language of his childhood. It's like the absolute has subjugated the intimate. Now, this theme is congruent with the remainder of the warlock's tale as well. He falls in love with Chilean, the main playable character who discovers his secret. She goes to tell the local church what she's witnessed, but the warlock casts a forgetting spell on her, or what he thought was a forgetting spell. He puts her into an endless slumber by mistake and is unable to wake her. She dies in her slumber. The warlock, torn completely between two worlds, having paid the ultimate price of his own desire for power, tragically casts the same spell on himself, and from his nightmares manifest the Abyss Odyssey. When you finally arrive at the final chamber of the Abyss, you fight the warlock's nightmare version of himself. Depending on the character you play as, you get different responses from him.
Warlock.
Ah, Chilean, why do you not address me by name?
You're a stranger to me now. I don't know you.
Return to the surface. Live as you are now, the way I remember you. Do not enter this tomb. There is only sadness here.
I'm just a dream. I am not real. None of this is real. Your dreams are destructive. You need to wake up.
I will not allow that. I am infinite! I am power itself! And I am vengeance, here to strip your power away.
Upon defeating the warlock's nightmare, you go to wake the sleeping warlock only to be dragged back to the surface by some unknown force. It's safe for now, but surely the warlock will be haunted by nightmares again. And that is like us beating the Elite Four or something, but more importantly, that is us building a cultural cipher. When I was younger, I had these hang-ups about certain games because navigating those signals took a lot more complex thought than probably what I was used to utilizing while playing video games. And all the games I played as a child were specifically designed to be consumed by someone like me. High contrast colors, bright sounds, relatable imagery. It's not until now, as I regard them as a form of art, that I look past the pixels and I see the spirit of creation underneath. Now, I don't look at Abyss Odyssey in my library and see something unfinished or something unknowable. I see a beautiful tapestry, depicting a snapshot of existence. And I hope that you made it this far and you feel like you can share in that tapestry as well. But now, it's your turn. What's a game in your library that you've been shrugging at for years? You think you're just missing the right cipher to understand it? Post it in the comments. And if you enjoyed the journey, please consider liking and subscribing because that helps me sleep at night. And I'll see you in the next one.